What's going on, everybody? It's your boy, PIPERBOY Williams. The only reason why I'm coming out with this and talking about it is because Rare Breed Entertainment issued a challenge with the URL. This is a challenge accepted. Rare Breed Entertainment believes that they're going to have the best card of the year, and they ended up getting into a situation to where they are trying to force URL's hand to respond to them in a competition that URL has no idea that's even going down. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. ARP wants a competition with the URL. And so I'm pretty much talking about it in this sense. Obviously, we get a situation where Sue Surf is not going to be on the URL card. Beasley comes out. He drops a blog about it after a couple of people blog on it, and it's a little bit of media pressure. They come out with the blog and they talk about it. ARP gets into a situation where Daylight, the battle with him is going to be canceled, and Daylight doesn't know why this is going on. I don't know why this is going on. The fans are kind of like in the purgatory on the situation. Like, we don't know whether or not we should buy the pay-per-view. Some people don't know whether or not they should go to the event. Some people who bought the pay-per-view and some people who bought tickets to the event are kind of in a situation like, yo, what do we do now? You know what I mean? Like, y'all told us Daylight is going to be on the card. He's not going to be on the card. ARP, he goes out, he puts out a tweet, basically giving the indication that he's going to sue, Daylight for whatever reason. You know what I'm saying? Like, he can say, whatever he wants. He's putting out the energy that there's going to be a lawsuit for whatever reason. Me personally, I'm kind of looking at it like, now we're getting down to the point to where there's two cards, and I'm looking at the Rare Breed Entertainment card, and I'm looking at what's going on with the URL, and I do not think at this point in time that the URL's card is losing the Rare Breed Entertainment's. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what y'all think. King Los versus Daylight. Some people didn't really care about that undercard. I'm not really a huge Daylight fan anymore, just because he's kind of turned me off of what's going on, like, with him. You know what I mean? Ever since the Mickey facts, and it's just the antics, and you just don't know what to expect for him not coming to battle. With the whole URL thing, he didn't come to the battle. A lot of things kind of worked in turning me away from Daylight. I know he's a talented artist, but it is what it is. Like, I gotta take what Daylight does like as a grain of salt. But in my particular situation of me viewing this, I think the card is better on the URL. At first it was kind of, you can argue like it may be kind of similar, even though Surf as a superstar, we knew we were only going to get 2 rounds or Surf was going to end up losing that battle. Let's be clear. You know what I'm saying? This is not a situation where it was going to be a debatable battle. We felt like, oh, well, Surf had a great, a good possibility of winning this thing. Like, I never thought that for 1 second. You know what I mean? Some people who are Surf fans, they may have thought that, but I didn't think that for 1 second. But you can kind of argue, all right, well, they got Daylight and King Los. This might be like, could make for a better battle than, a potential, a mishap with the Iron Solomon and Surf. Now the card has been, flipped around a little bit, and you got URL. It's got the JC versus Iron Solomon that was going to go down. You know what I'm saying? This is going to happen. They were thinking about doing T-Top, but, maybe that'll happen at a later date. So that's why I pulled the blog down that I did before, because when I heard that they were going to probably go ahead and go with JC, I pulled that blog down. So I'm looking at Iron Solomon versus JC, and I think for one, if this battle would have been announced like in lieu or instead of the Sue Surf and Iron Solomon, I think fans probably would have went crazy, over it. I think this is a Summer Madness worthy battle, and I think this is a battle to make people want to buy the pay-per-view. In my personal opinion, I don't think King Los versus Daylight necessarily is something that wouldn't make people buy the pay-per-view, but I know goddamn well King Los versus Head Ice is not going to make people want to buy a pay-per-view. For one, no disrespect to Head Ice, but he's not an interesting battle rapper to watch. You know what I'm saying? He's not. I mean, we've seen, what he did when he went up against Nims. We've seen the battle that he had when he went up against Cortez. Me personally, I think Head Ice versus Los will make a better battle on the standpoint that that Head Ice is going to come to the event for the most part because of the relationship that ARP has with the staff over there at King of the Dot. That this battle may not be blocked. You know what I mean? And then he's going to come and he's going to give you 3 rounds. That's just what's going to happen with Head Ice. Is it going to be the best 3 rounds that you've ever seen? No. You know what I mean? Is it going to be some cryptic thing that only maybe Head Ice and a few other people know about? Yes. You know what I'm saying? Can King Los rap better than Head Ice? Yes. You know what I'm saying? But this is going to come down to battle rap. Can Head Ice like battle better than, you know, King Lo. So that was what it's going to come down to. But me personally, I feel like, you know, ARP needed to come out and talk to the fans. Beasley even went as far as pulling out a cell phone, you know what I mean, and recording the video with a cell phone to tell the fans what was going on his channel, not just a cryptic, you know, message on Twitter, you know what I mean? And one thing is, I don't really hold this as the exact same thing as what the URL did, is what RAREBREED Entertainment is doing, because they did at least let you guys know, and the battle was replaced at a timely fashion. But I still think the fans need to know exactly what's going on, and I don't feel like just because a tweet was put out or a video was put out of the opponent that's going to be at Daylight Stead, I don't think that is enough, you know what I mean, to satisfy the fans or to get ARP out of the hot seat. Like, I don't think so, you know what I mean? But if I'm looking at all this and I'm looking at card for card, because ARP, this is what you wanted to do. You created a beef between your league and URL, in a sense, well, a competitive, like, you know what I mean, like, it's kind of like, there's always been a beef going on with y'all. Like, we already know that. But you created like this tension with the URL in hopes to have this tension that you create, you versus the URL, or RAREBREED Entertainment versus the URL, to help propel or to help sell like your event. You know what I mean? That's what I'm thinking. I might be a mental midget, but that's what I'm thinking. And URL didn't bite, you know, and accept the challenge, because they never really issued a challenge. And they're just kind of, it seems like they're just moving on and they're doing their own thing, when you're kind of looking at them and trying to gauge your card off of what they're doing to try to get the fans to try to like put RAREBREED Entertainment in the same light with the URL, when the URL is just doing them. But I'm looking at card for card now, since we're going to do it like that. And I've got to say, like, I don't think, you know, Murder Mook versus, you know, Averb is dope. You know, Big K versus Iron Solomon is dope, but Iron Solomon has a better battle that's on the URL. I mean, it is what it is. Big K, we know what we're going to get with him. He doesn't care. Obviously, like, he thinks he won like the last 3 battles that he had. He doesn't really care about what his fans think. He doesn't care what any, you know, bloggers, any media. He doesn't care what people think about him, which is a great attribute to have in a sense, because it gives you just confidence in your abilities to do whatever you want to do, regardless of what anybody thinks. You know what I mean? So shout out to him, respect him for that. But at the same time, you got to know when you winning and you got to know when you losing. And the battle that Big K had when he went on Ultimate Rap League going up against T-Top, you know, on a real big league, you play around with a battle like that. How do I think you're going to take a battle seriously on RAREBREED Entertainment? So I don't know. You know what I mean? Going up against Iron Solomon, it might be a good Big K. We can give him the benefit of the doubt there, but I highly doubt that's going to happen. I mean, that's my personal opinion on it. So I think, you know, a B-Dot versus, you know, a Sway 7, is that better than, you know, Math Hoffa versus Av? Is that better than a Shotgun Suge versus Geechee Gotti? You know what I'm saying? I think that's going to make for a big, you know, a pretty decent battle, B-Dot versus Swave 7. But you got to think about it like, I'm kind of a old head when it comes to battle rap. Like Swave 7, I respect him, but as new fans are coming into the forefront, they don't know who he is. Are they going to acclimate to his style? Is his performance that Swave 7 going to be up to par with what people are doing right now? And I've heard Swave 7 say, you know, basically, if I lose, I lose. You know what I mean? Like, I move on to the next thing. So with him saying that, does that give you like a feeling that he's going to come and be on 100% against B-Dot? Or do you think that Swave 7's 100% and B-Dot's 100% is going to outweigh a Shotgun Suge 100%? And, you know what I'm saying, like what he's doing over there with Geechee Gotti or Math Hoffa and Av, or, you know, some of those battles that they have over there. I'm just looking at it. When you look at, you know, card for card, I don't think, you know, besides, obviously, I mean, you got people are calling this the Murder Mook card. I mean, it is what it is. So you got Murder Mook versus Aver, but outside of that, that's it, you know, that people are really interested in. So I think as a whole, that JC versus Iron Solomon, and may have been, you know, in the URL's best interest to end up, you know, it sucks that this happened, and I hate that, you know, fans paid to see Sue Surf, and, you know what I mean, like they're buying the pay-per-views, and, you know what I mean, they're going ahead and they're buying tickets to go and to Vegas, and they're not going to get that battle. Like, that sucks for them, and that's why I did all those blogs to kind of force their hand to come out and talk about it, you know what I mean, because I was looking out for y'all. But I think the battle on the URL between Iron Solomon and JC is a better battle. You know what I'm saying? I think this could make for a classic battle, and I hate that we're even pushing that, because when we do stuff like that, it puts too much pressure on the battle rappers to try to make a classic, and it kind of puts them out of their element. You know what I mean? But I think as a whole, JC is a better rapper than Sue Surf. He is. He's a better barsmith than Sue Surf. As far as more entertaining, you got to go with Sue Surf. This is going to be kind of like in a small room. It's not going to be technically like small, like a volume series. You're going to have like 500 to 700 people in there, but it's still really like a Born Legacy or something, or like a small room. So like the electrifying shit that you get with Sue Surf, it may not be as intense. You know what I'm saying? This is not a Houston crowd. This is not a huge crowd. And, you know, there is drawbacks to Sue Surf when you put him in a small room. There's drawbacks to what he's actually saying to his opponent, and he may end up losing that battle. I don't want to see somebody, you know, straight up lose. You know what I mean? Even though I've been heavily critical on Sue Surf, I would rather him have like a debatable battle, so we could talk about more potential battles for him to have in the future that would make sense, that people can actually argue for. You know what I mean? And build up some momentum, to, you know, for, so we can talk about those in the future. But I felt like Sue Surf going into that battle, like there's no way he was going to be able to win that. You know what I mean? Like whether or not he's got legal issues, it's always something coming up on the day that a person's supposed to battle. I don't know, because I'm seeing him over there in LA with Geechee Gotti chilling and hanging out. There's some blogs that people did about that, you know what I mean, on smaller channels that people haven't really gotten a chance to see, or him hanging out with Game, or him in like different areas, and him putting up tweets about him flying to this place and that place. Just coincidentally, you know what I mean? I don't know that he's saying that he's got legal problems like on this particular day that the event's going to go back. But whenever somebody, you know, give somebody $20,000 back or some $15,000 back, it's got to be, you know, a situation, you know, that they're going through. Or, you know, $15,000 to $20,000 is just not worth my reputation. You know what I mean? The laws of power, you protect your reputation, you know, with your life. You know, and he may be in a position where he knows he might lose that battle. He may not want to take it. I don't know. But at the end of the day, Iron Solomon versus JC, to me, I think it makes for a better battle. And if that battle would have been released right after, you know what I'm saying, or announced right after Tay Rock and, you know what I'm saying, like Hitman Holla or something like that, I think that the fans will still go crazy about it. So as a whole, I got URL kind of winning this thing. You know what I'm saying? And it's not that, you know, just technically, like on the technical aspect of the card, obviously the URL card is way better than what they got on the Rare Breed Entertainment. And I'm just doing this because you issued a challenge to the URL, so the fans got to look at it like that. I think it comes down to, at the end of the day, regardless of how much pressure was put on the URL to do, you know what I mean, like a blog, or to have the media outlets to come out and talk about it, like they made the announcement and they talked to the fans themselves. You know what I'm saying? Like Beasley is the head of the URL, in my personal opinion. Obviously, there's Chico. Norbs has a big, huge, like, you know, part to deal with, like finding talent, and he's got his own things that he deals with. Smack White is the face of it, but in my eyes, I always have Beasley as being like, well, and P is like very smart in his strategy and putting battles together, but I have Beasley as being a neuron, or being like the brains of the URL. You know what I'm saying? And he came out and he talked to the fans about a situation multiple times. He did it on the URL channel, then he did it on 15 Minutes of Fame twice. You see what I'm saying? So, and we haven't heard anything from ARP other than the cryptic tweets that are out there, and kind of a response to some of the backlash that's going on because of the decision to get rid of Daylight on the card. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, you know, I see that you put up a tweet about bloggers need to act like, you know, they need to, bloggers, media, battle rappers, all of us need to act like, you know, we're all making $10,000 off of this, and, you know, and up our game, or whatever you want to say. You know, but at the end of the day, you also have to be held to that same standard. You got to act like you making millions of dollars. If we got to act like that, you got to act like you making millions. You know what I'm saying? You got to hold yourself to a certain standard. I understand you want to go to court and you want to do things, but it may not even had to go that route. You know what I mean? If you would have just came out and tell people like exactly what's going on, maybe it's something that could be forgivable, or maybe it's just a situation right now to where both of y'all are being petty. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. And you probably just want to, you know, wait and take it to court and see if maybe you can win on that angle. I don't know. But at the end of the day, you know, legal, if you take Daylight to court, I don't think this is going to stop battlers from being battlers. I think battlers are A lot of them are very disrespectful. A lot of them don't abide by contracts. A lot of them don't really respect the art of battle rap, even though there's some of the heads in this shit. And it's sad to say that, but that's what's going on. You know what I mean? I think it's a dope move for you league-wise to say, okay, now leagues can take a stand on certain things, but at the end of the day, the fans don't give a shit about that. The only thing they care about is, why is this battle canceled that I wanted to go to, that I wanted to see? What's going on? You know what I'm saying? Why? And if you're going to do something like this, at least give us the opportunity to have, you know, a battle rapper that we want to see, because I don't think anybody want to see Head Ice. You know what I'm saying? Battle. I'm not dissing him, but I don't think anybody wants to see him versus King Los. I think there's a lot of other people that probably would have did better with that opportunity. And then I'm thinking, as a blogger, you know, Head Ice puts out a tweet saying, I'm never going on a URL. You know what I'm saying? Again, you know, you're never going to catch me on a URL. There's some things going on behind the scenes, but then you pop up on RAREBREED Entertainment's card. So, you know, my mind is thinking about a lot of things. Maybe that's conspiracy theory, whatever. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, just tell us it's not true. You know, come out and make a blog and talk about it. Whereas, you know, you haven't done that. You know, you're leaving it cryptic. And I don't think we can hold URL to one standard and then not hold you to the same standard. If you're pinning your card against these people, or your league against these people, you guys have to kind of do the same thing. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. Comment, rate, subscribe. Let me know what y'all think about that. I'm just a blogger. Listen. But at the end of the day, I think if we're going to go card by card, if we're going to go, like, you know, timeline by timeline of what's going on, like, obviously both, you know, leagues have taken a hit with a card. And this does happen. You know, sometimes you're going to get a situation where a league's going to have a battle that drops, you know, that drops off of the card. You know what I mean? But at the same time, you know, it's how you deliver the information to the fans, or how you make it right with the fans, that ends up, you know, being, you know, what people take into account to kind of, you know, have the relationship with the league kind of salvaged. You know what I mean? In my personal opinion. And I see a big blogger out there talking about, oh, well, you know, this happens all the time, to where, you know, battles are dropped from the card and then replaced. Well, I don't remember that New Jersey twerk. You know what I'm saying? Like, and Daddy Myers battle being replaced with anything dope. Like, I don't remember that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm tripping. You know what I mean? So I just felt I was in a situation to where, you know, we ain't about to have this shit happen twice. You know what I'm saying? Y'all not going to say nothing. But at the end of the day, you know what I mean? Like, I'm looking at URL and I'm looking at RAREBREED, and I got, you know, URL taking this one. If you drop another part of the face-off with Murder Mook and Averb, RAREBREED Entertainment, I think people are going to watch. People are going to be excited about it. But at the end of the day, that one battle doesn't, like, you know, overshadow, like, the potential for classics of what's going on the other card. That's just my personal opinion. Plus, they got, I mean, you got Murder Mook, they got Hitman Holla. You know, if you really want to look at it, when you look at, you know, status-wise, you know, Hitman Holla is probably above, worldwide, above where Murder Mook is. You know what I mean? If y'all want to be real, he's on TV every day. He's got a huge, you know, following right now. You know what I mean? Murder Mook, I respect Murder Mook. But in battle rap, you know what I mean, to the old heads, you know, we got Murder Mook being a person that's of higher stature. You know what I'm saying? But in all reality, Hitman Holla is a bigger draw. You know what I mean? He's going to sell more tickets. I think they got into a situation on the URL to where they sold out in 9 days. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, the venue, it holds 500 to 700 people, but they sold out in 9 days. And you know they're going to do numbers with the pay-per-view. You know they're going to have people, like, watching that shit. You know what I'm saying? Because even though, you know, this is happening and people are kind of against, like, getting the pay-per-views right now, I feel like people are still going to support and get, you know, the URL's pay-per-view, whereas now they're kind of iffy on whether or not they're going to get your pay-per-view. And I'm just looking at some of the people that I follow, and I'm looking at, you know, some of the people that are messaging me now, like, they're kind of against, like, what's going on with the whole, like, pay-per-view thing. I would think that we're kind of getting to a place to where we can be trusted with pay-per-views, but I'm starting to slowly think that battle rap is not there yet. You know what I'm saying? To where, you know, it, like, pay-per-view can be like the trusted, you know, a medium, because if you get it, like, beforehand, obviously battles are going to drop off. Now you don't know what league owner is going to do. Now you don't know if they're going to be cryptic with you and not tell you the, you know, the truth, or now you don't know if they're just going to replace a battle with something that you don't want to see. You know, so I can't be mad at the fan that wants to buy the pay-per-view if they buy it, like, last minute, because they don't know what's going to happen. You know what I mean? And that's sad to say, because you got people who do want to go to these events, who do want to fly to these events. I've flown and I've been to events before, you know what I'm saying? And, You know, I've been at the Bullpen Battle League event. I went to, you know, see K-Shine one time, and K-Shine like dubbed the battle. You know what I'm saying? Not because he couldn't, like, you know what I'm saying, he didn't want to do it. It was like a flight situation. Like, he really couldn't even be there. So it wasn't really a time to like go in on Bullpen Battle League. You know, they tried to make it happen with, I think it was K-Shine versus Sharon, but it couldn't happen because K-Shine, he missed the flight. You know what I'm saying? Like, and they tried to make it up to the fans, and you know what I mean? So I couldn't like really talk about them. So shit like this happens. I know that feeling going to an event to see somebody. You know what I'm saying? And I'm seeing, you know, a big media source talking about, well, people don't just go to, you know, a battle to see one person. I don't know that. I don't know if people go to a battle to see one person. I don't know about you, but I went to Summer Madness to see Hollow the Don. I went to Bullpen Battle League to see K-Shine. You know what I'm saying? Like, I went to Known 5 to see Tay-Rock. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm seeing people saying, oh, they went to the Houston event to see Surf. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Anything that we can to kind of suppress what's going on. But, you know, at the end of the day, people do go to events to see one person in particular. People do feel like that one person is worth it to them to spend $1,000 to go see them in person. Some people spend crazy money to go see like a fucking concert on the West Coast if they live on the East Coast. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a concert. Some people want to do the same thing for battle rap. Battle rap is getting bigger. Obviously, you guys are going to different markets. You're touching down in Houston. You're touching down in Vegas. Like, people who in New York that's been to every event, they might not want to miss certain events. So they might end up flying to Houston. They might end up flying to New York. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, the whole thing with media suppression is kind of getting annoying, but at the same time, you got to do damage control and use your, you know, your prongs, you know, however you can. But at the end of the day, I feel like right now, looking away from all that, I feel like card for card, I got URL's card being a much better buy than what's going on with Rare Breed Entertainment. Come rate, subscribe, let me know what y'all think about that. I'm just a blogger. Listen, you know what I'm saying? You know, battle rap is getting crazy. You know what I mean? Like, but this is what happens. You know, sometimes it could be karma, you know, at the end of the day, but you know, we never know. I hope that we have dope events. I hope this is going to end up being a dope event for both parties. I think that we're going to get decent battles. I'm not sure about, you know, King Los versus Head Ice. For one, King Los doesn't really have that much time for Right to Head Ice. Probably don't even know who Head Ice is. You got to do research on this dude. You got to do, and you running out of time and you're not used to battling. You know what I'm saying? I think a lot of things are going to weigh in Head Ice's favor because Head Ice, King Los is somebody you can easily get tons of information about. You know what I mean? Like, whereas Head Ice is kind of hard to really find much about him because he don't really battle. He doesn't really, you know, come out of the woodworks that often. So I think King Los is at a disadvantage with that, but I think he's at an advantage because of his, you know, he's a better rapper, you know, at the end of the day. But, you know, when you put a good rapper up against a battle rapper, things can change as well. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not going to take that away from Head Ice, but I'm not really interested in an undercard right now on Rare Breed Entertainment. This is my personal opinion. Come rate, subscribe, let me know what y'all think about that.